The Women Beyond the Table is a community of empowered women who are rewriting the rules and taking their skills, knowledge, and wisdom beyond the table.
Hello, and welcome to the Women Beyond the Table podcast. My name is Tammy, and my fabulous co-host is Caryn. Hey, Caryn, what's the word?
Hey, Tam, I'm so excited to be talking to Summer today about Flowdreaming.
Yes, today is a table talk episode, and the topic is Flowdreaming. And to say that we are stoked to welcome the creator of Flowdreaming, Summer McStravick. It's like a huge understatement. I first personally discovered Flowdreaming on the Mindvalley Omvana app and on Mindvalley and became hooked. I decided to ask my assistant, Google, to find out more about Summer, which led me to her website where I downloaded actually more Flowdreaming files and started really learning a bit about Summer. And I discovered that she was a growth coach, a personal growth coach, author, featured speaker, and podcaster. And she's the one who's pioneered the art of Flowdreaming. She discovered it, she pioneered it, she created it, which is a mind-body technique. And just for the listeners out there to know, Flowdreaming is practiced in 180 countries, which is phenomenal and huge. This modality, Flowdreaming, helps you program your future as you manifest and grow inner emotional strength. Before Flowdreaming, Summer built Hay House Radio, which some of you are probably very familiar with, and produced hundreds of online and audio programs for visionaries such as Louise Hay, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and Suze Orman. So today, she's channeled all of this into ME School. That's me, M as in Mary, E as in Edward, me School, where her students explore their empathic intuition, learn to talk to the universe, and unearth inner power. So with all that, welcome, Summer, and thank you so much for being here today. We are super excited to have you on. And I do know this is a busy time as you're gearing up to the start of ME School, which, by the way, for the audience, it's only offered one time per year, ME School. So with that being said, hey, Summer.
Hey, Tammy, hey, Caryn, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Oh, I have to get used to hearing all those wonderful things you keep saying. I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. That's right. Funny.
Now you've done it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm delighted to be here and talk with you and everybody listening and just roll with it. Whatever topic comes up, I'm known for going off on little tangents. So just be warned and pull me back in.
Summer, I'm fascinated also just with the fact that you helped build and construct Hay House Radio. Wayne Dyer, Susie Orman, all this is so fascinating to me. And did that happen before you found Flowdreaming, or was that how did that unfold?
Gosh, okay, so we're going back a ways now, right? Hay House Radio first debuted in 2005. By that time, I'd already been working for the company for a good 5 years. I had been practicing Flowdreaming on my own, which slowly kind of spread through the company. There's an old story I tell that word got out, and how everybody in companies buys lottery tickets, as a group. They said, can you help us win the lottery? So we would go out into the warehouse full of books, and we'd join together, and I would lead people in this process. Literally all the employees would be out there doing it. This led to me actually getting a book with Hay House, which was another kind of extraordinary. Usually publishing companies don't publish their own employees, but
that's tremendous.
Taken off, right? This is right about the time that I switched into a new role there, which was director of new media. And new media at the time is all of our old media now. First webinars ever put out there, online broadcasting, live radio broadcasting. And it was just an extraordinary experience getting to build something from the ground up.
Exactly.
Getting to learn.
You were in from the beginning of media, it sounds like, that we're listening to today.
Yeah, so I like to tell people, I feel like they gave me an MBA They paid me to to learn not just, how to handle and grab new media at a time when it was just such a new and beautiful thing, but they told me, go build it in the space of personal growth and mindset. And I was, the irony is that my whole upbringing, my life has been in the woo-woo and the personal growth and my whole family, generations. And I was running as fast as I could to get away from it. I'm like, I'm going to go into publishing so that I don't have to do any of this stuff. And the universe put me right back in and said, not only are you going to do it, but you're going to have to build this thing. And that's what led to all those really fortunate, just a blessed time of creating for so many people and learning from them. Mostly for me, it was
learning from the best of the best. So inspirational. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you were in publishing and radio, but then you kind of came up with this technique that's now practiced in 180 countries, which is amazing. So while you were developing these media programs and working with, mindset and what you call woo-woo, because that's what it was. I find there's BC before COVID and now where everybody's very open to it and thinks and wants to know more. How did you find where did Flowdreaming come from? How did you get to that point where you're like, this is something I want to create and I want to put forward to the world?
Well, I think that's one of the more extraordinary pieces. It was around 2000. I had a literary magazine, because remember, I was trying to be, do something else. And it was failing miserably. I had lost $30,000 on it. And I was in my mid to late 20s. And I was talking with my mom one day, and we were doing our creative visualization, our positive affirmations, our mirror work. And some of you guys remember this. This is what we used to do back, 20 years ago. And we decided to be accountability buddies, like diet buddies. We'd get on the phone with each other each day. And I'd say, okay, Mom, I really need this magazine of mine to turn around. It's my career path. Let's make it profitable. And one day when we were in this, call it space together, doing this work, I have to say something shifted. We were kind of talking each other into this really deep manifestational emotional space. I don't know how else to describe it. Afterwards, we realized, hey, did you realize we've been on the phone an hour? Did you feel like you were even here on Earth? I was like, no, I don't know where we went. I don't know what just happened. Please, more. And eventually, we were doing this, and that is right when Hay House came in and hired me. What happened is sometimes the things that we're trying to create, there's I have a magic phrase for it. I call it this or better. My desire was to do this literary magazine, which frankly, so grateful, didn't work out, put that thing down, finally let go of it. How hard it is to release things that you've invested in, and, the sunken costs and all that, right? So that's when I stumbled literally through a letter in the mail to get this job at Hay House. Didn't even answer a job, just said, okay, well, I'm just going to send a mail off and see if they want someone like me. I live locally. So what I see happening is that life was saying, oh yeah, you really want to do something? Well, we know what you're going to do. And here is your next step, but you got to let go of this one thing. And you keep pressuring us, universe, to give you the next thing. So here you go. And that's the moment that sent me off really into this journey where I was then learning how to skill up. And not only that, but keep embracing the technique and unfolding the technique. And frankly, I was so young then. I mean, I did share it with people, but not with the awareness I think I have now after having used it for the last 22 years. So it's an extraordinary journey, but I just, we all look at these little pivot points in our life, these turning points that we don't see when we're in them, but in hindsight, we say, oh yes, that's exactly what had to happen. So my life is peppered with these little points like that.
I'm fascinated by the support of, like you said, your family was into this, and and just the support from your mom and doing this with you. Because a lot of families, they don't buy into any of that stuff. It's like, get the corporate job, graduate number one, go for an MBA, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'm just fascinated that You said your family was doing affirmations and mirror work. I mean, this is really quite revolutionary in families, I think.
Yeah.
And the fact that your mother was your partner in manifestations and manifesting to where you wound up at Hay House, it's amazing. I'm like flabbergasted. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. When you grow up in something so normal, it doesn't seem, like, wow. And that's why I said, I'm going to graduate first in my class. I'm going to college. I'm going,
And this feels different, Summer. Somehow, like the affirmations, though it's, like it feels a little different what you do. Like Flowdreaming feels like Louise Hay is very big on the I ams. Wayne Dyer was also tremendously I am. And I love that. Very, very powerful. But this feels more like dreamy and more where it feels like a more fun, where like playful. Can you explain that? Like, how did it come to you? Like, did it just like?
Yeah. First of all, I always joke that I'm pretty terrible at meditation. I have tried it many times over the years. I end up getting very, very frustrated after my, 39th day of just sitting there yakety yak in my head. And I remember thinking, there's got to be something for people like me, people whose minds want to help. I always say I have a yappy dog mind, right? My mind is like, I love you, give me a bone, I'm here for you, give me something to do. And if I'm trying to do something else, like say shush and woo, we're gonna om, and my little mind says, well, so what can I give that part of myself where I can say, all right, I'm going to involve you. I'm going to bring you in. In fact, I'm going to give you so much to think and feel that we're going to lose each other and inside of each other. So this is where the main difference comes. And of course, you can do this when you meditate. Sometimes people who are good at meditation, they will meditate and then follow it up with a session of Flowdreaming too. But the idea is, it is very emotional. It is emotive. It is not something like an affirmation where you're repeating things, right? Trying to get your subconscious to drink them in. In this, I sometimes call it emotional reconditioning. We're getting to choose how we want to feel, and we're not waiting for life to give us any damn reason to feel it. We just feel it. We say, this is how I want to feel. I get to have this feeling now. I would like life now to line up some things to help match this feeling. Because most of the time we're all waiting on life to do something so we can have a feeling that we want. So we do all this action and building of stuff and whatever to try to get life to give us reasons to have the feelings. But for me, there's a way to flip that. And so when I flip it, I feel it. And then I say, life, why don't you help me figure out what those things are that are going to help me kind of align so that we're in alignment with each other. That's a long, short answer. I'm not even sure it was precise. But there's an element of flow, which is its own kind of psychological phenomena, huge emotion. And you're right, daydreaming, that's the way in.
Well, I can tell you, because for me, when I hear it, first of all, your voice is amazing. And depending on which meditation it is your voice changes, your voice, the timbre of it changes, the way you're conducting it changes, and it resonates with what that dream is supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
But also the imagery that you're putting out there, like when you're floating and look at the river, what do you see on the banks and stuff like that. So your mind has someplace to go.
Yeah.
That one, like you said, that yappity mind, it has someplace to go and go, oh, I'm floating, and you know what? The banks are gold, and I have gold around me, and my flow is, and I see the energy. And then you have this music that actually picks up the emotion of what you're talking about. So yes. It doesn't matter what it is, the music, you get taken up into the music, and that makes the imaging even stronger. And I find that even if I get like distracted, because sometimes the mind will go wander a little bit, but you still, you're bringing me back in. Like I get brought back in because I'm in the story, and it is a dream. There's a story going on, and there's a dream. I must have listened to big self-love,
yes,
4 months straight. I'm serious.
Yes.
It was my favorite meditation. And I swear, I listened to and then that's what made me go and look for you like all over the place. I'm like, I want more of this. And now I've done quite a few of them, and I'm like, these are great. And I don't do anything else. I don't look at any other meditations. I don't practice anything. It's not a meditation, but I use it as a meditation. So in the mornings, when I'm not tired, sometimes I'll just sit and close my eyes. First, I'll get into like my own space. It's almost like what you said, when you do your own meditation, but then I'm like, I go to my Flowdreaming app, and I go to my files. That's it.
I have an
app.
Downloading. That reminds me, I have an app.
You have an app?
Yeah, I have an app, my own app.
I will be downloading it after this conversation.
Great.
I love what you said, Summer, about how it differentiates a bit from normal meditation or traditional meditation, and that like you invite the ego to play along. And I love that, because the ego is always just wanting things, and it's that voice that you invite it to play. And I love
the ego
that.
kind of gets a bad rap. Everybody's like, oh, your ego, it's like it's giving you those limiting beliefs or whatever it's doing. And it's like, it gets a bad rap. It really does.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the ego. I feel that it gives you your passion. It tells you what you want. It inspires you to go get it. Of course, it can go poorly. The ego has a flip side. But if it's really working with you and for you, your ego should be inspiring you. Like, chase after this, taste this, bite into this, live life. That's how I love it. Can we go back to what you were saying, though, about dazzling self-love or deep self-love? I have two of them, actually. So what you were doing, and every time you're listening to this and playing it, whether you use it as a meditation, a lot of people do because they're emotionally exhausted, tired, wiped out at the end of the day. They just want to listen to something and let it seep in. Like, that is cool. But if you can get the emotional stuff going with it, look at it like this. When you meditate, they've had studies that show it actually changes the neural pathways in your brain. I look at Flowdreaming as doing the same thing. In fact, I've even had my brain waves mapped on it, which I don't have in front of me now, but it causes a kind of brain entrainment to happen. But we're using this with our emotional self. So imagine if there was a way that you could start to cultivate or develop certain emotions in you that you don't have, and you want them. So you practice this every day. And what's happening is, on a practical note, you're actually recreating this emotional state, growing it inside of you and training it inside of you. On a more, energetic state, if you go into that realm, manifestational state, what you're also communicating to the world and the universe is, this is what I want. This is who I am. I'm building more of it in me every single day. And most of us believe that what we are inside is kind of reflected by what we have outside. So and I always say, change this first. If you keep changing the stuff outside of you and it doesn't match this, it's going to keep falling down and keep breaking. And you're just going to haven't you had enough of that yet? When you change here, though, everything, like I said, kind of realigns. So by doing this work, you're creating this, I call it a template or a blueprint. And I'm saying, who here has a blueprint for their life based on the feelings they want to feel in their future? And all the things we really want in our future always lead to a feeling. I want a new job. You want a new job because you want new feelings. You want feelings of feeling safe. I've got more money, feeling like I'm in purpose. I'm doing something meaningful. Notice these are all feelings we're going for. You just picked new job as the physical way that you think would get you there. So when we start to cultivate and focus on the feelings, we're really getting down to the core of every single thing in our life. So just wanted to add that little piece in there.
No, I mean, yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, because there was a reason that I just listen. You know how many meditations in the last couple of years I've listened to? Do you know how many meditations are on Omvana alone? And I've had a bunch of meditation, apps on my phone, but this just, I only want to listen to it. I only want to listen to it.
It's so sweet.
and just going into the clearing, and I actually, had like angels coming down and giving me a hug, and like the things that you're saying, and it's just like, wow. And yeah, the feeling, it gave me that feeling of I can't even explain the feeling, actually. There clearly was a very strong feeling that it's hard for me to explain, that kept me going back for more. Let me ask you a question, like during the day, okay, because we have a day, so we do flow dreaming, but you have the rest of the day. So where should one focus their awareness each day? Like what should we be focusing awareness wise to help us, get these feelings or stay in this great feeling that we want to have?
Yeah, really good question. So the technique itself, flow dreaming, you can go into flow for 2 minutes, honestly. I mean, it doesn't have to be a 15, 20-minute thing. The way I've created the flow dreams for people, which are these, audio recordings, is I've created them around specific topics, and like get a new career,
Right.
find my new direction, have more wealth and safety in my life. Again, all connected to feelings. But the way I use it today is, for instance, this morning, I have a couple of things that I want to have happen and want to see. I go into this place, I get really kind of emotionally rich. I allow whatever images to come, because I'm free rolling it here, or whatever they call it, because I'm not listening to my own meditation necessarily. But I go in there and I feel around this area of my life, just like I said with that publishing journal, right? I wanted success is really what I wanted. What I wanted was to move into a career path that would deeply fulfill me. Like that's what I was really flow dreaming for. I just thought it was the one thing, but that's really what I was going for. So for instance, you could start your morning with, what do I really want to experience? And usually there's an area of our life that's kind of messed up. And so many of us want to try and fix that area first. We're like, if I could just get this fixed, then I could move on to all the rest. So you work on something like that. I don't mean work. I call it a bubble bath for your mind, right? We get into this state. But for the rest of the day, where my focus is typically if I feel myself drifting or not being where I want to be, or something, difficult happens, a family member has a meltdown, stuff that happens. I will go into my flow and I'll say, wait, how do I really want to feel about this? This situation is resolving. It's resolving for the best. These aren't affirmations. I'm just speaking them for you because you can't see what I'm feeling unless I say these words. So I will use it kind of on the fly throughout my day to what I call course correct. And what it's made me realize is a lot of us have this real huge amount of lack thinking in our lives. I noticed it in me, lack thinking, scarcity thinking, fear thinking, where we lack trust. And I will have something happen that derails me in my day, and I'll find myself going into it, going around with it, thinking, oh, how do I fix this? This is so messed up, and I'll go, wait a minute, all is well. That was Louise Hay coming through, right? All is well.
I love that.
It is working out. This is beautiful. This is right. This is in divine timing. This is all part of the process. What can I get from this? How can I open into this? How can I lean into this? What does it need from me? And that's how everything shifts. That's kind of how I use it in a day-to-day way, if that's a question.
I love that. I love how you just described that, Summer. And the one thing also that's so consistent is that it's the emotion behind these, I don't want to say, well, these desires, I guess that's what they are. So it's the emotion that it seems that's the part that is the sort of rocket of desire that makes things happen.
Yes. Yes, that sounded just like Abraham Hicks speaking, the rocket of desire. Yeah, so exactly. And when you are launching that, I look at it again, a very cumulative thing. Like this is a slow burn for me, right? I play the long game with flow dreaming. I use it day to day to fix and alter and tinker with things and make them more in alignment or correct me back on the path. But I'm also thinking, if I'm doing this repeatedly in my life, if I'm doing this day after day, month after month, year after year, what I'm starting to see is it's like you surface things in you. Like I said, more of the lack thinking will come out. Something that used to spin me out for days or weeks, I catch myself within an hour, within a day. instead of wasting all of that, because it's like you've trained yourself to see and surface this stuff and remember, oh yeah, there is something I can do about it. And I think the doing for me is the most game-changing piece of this, because again, back in the day, all the books we'd read would say, just get your mind in the right place. Just get your, just get,
just suck it up and get it done. And you can do it, and you do it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm a working mom with 2 little kids. I worked from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. How do I can't just get my mind always in the right place. Is there something I can do? Is there something I can do that will change me? And I think too, that's where this as a technique took a lot of teachings that we've all heard over the years and said, yeah, this is what you do. So there's the knowing of the thing, which we all, like any of us who are, personal growth junkies, we know so much about what we should do and etc. But then we say it never penetrates past the knowing. I'm not seeing it happening effectively. I say, well, here's a technique. It's like going to the gym, start doing this, and now you're working with your emotional self, right? And we work out our bodies, we take care of them. We take care of our brains, right? We do our Sudoku and a Scrabble or whatever. Get your memory. But our emotional selves, we pretty much just ignore them.
So basically, so what you're really suggesting is to proactively, activate, cultivate ease and flow. I find that I'm learning that even your brain, it needs a break. Everything needs a break. Like you said, I'm working 7 to 7 and I'm busy, but like you have to schedule. You have to make sure to say to yourself, you know what? I'm gonna like reward you. You're such an amazing person. Your brain, your mind, you're so great. We're gonna take a 20-minute walk, and we're gonna just let our mind do it. You can do whatever you want. You can just go there. And I think we have to be gentler. Like I'm learning, because I was always like, look, I have a list. I have a lot of things to do. I have to, most OCD, I have to cross everything off the list one by one. That's how I feel good about myself as a person. But I'm starting to realize, no, I'll feel better as a person if I actually give myself a break and let my mind just go wherever it wants to go, and take my body outside and go for a walk or go someplace and just like give myself that, okay, do your thing. And I find that's better. I even found myself walking to Central Park and just like going into the nature, or scheduling a whole day and going to visit a friend and going to their house and hanging out with them, which I did with Caryn, because she lives out on the island. She has a beautiful home and a beautiful backyard, and just it's this peacefulness there. And I felt so much better because my mind just was like, okay. And yeah, we did stuff. We had to get some things done, but you know what, at the end of the day, it was all good. I think that's like being proactive, right? Where you're saying to yourself, hey, self, it's time to get into, like, we need some ease and we need some flow, and just put it into your day.
Yeah, and Tammy, what I love so much is that we hear, and speaking to so many people in this space, is what's so different with you, Summer, is that you really embrace the emotional system unlike anyone else. Like it's so interesting to me that how this is because the refractory period, which is the time when you're triggered and you come back to being yourself. So that's how I measure my growth, or whatever. Yes, my growth is in like how once I'm really disrupted, and and I'm feeling either angry or frustrated or whatever, how long is it going to take me to get back to being okay? And but to take care of your emotional system and to have this tool is profound. This is a profound work of yours, and I'm thrilled about it for you.
Caryn, that's a really good point, because a lot of, we're doing these recordings, we're having a lot of conversations, but also we're part of Women Beyond the Table. And these are conversations that we're always like hearing and talking about. And there's so many coaches out there that are like, okay. And I practice it too, believe me, where you look at the trigger and you remove yourself from the emotions and you become the observer, right? So you give yourself that time to react, and, triggers normally you're off there, but and giving yourself time to not react, take the emotion out of it, identify the emotion, and then be the observer. But in this case, I like it because we're all beings of emotion at the end of the day. And I like welcoming them and sitting with them and loving them and understanding them and dreaming, doing flow dreaming, where you're in that kind of state. There's something really nice about that, instead of always trying to kind of shut them down and become an observer, which I don't think it's really in our DNA. I find that a little cold sometimes, to be honest with you.
You got to remember, we live in a real masculine oriented culture, meaning control, enforcement, thought, mental is dominant over the heart, or you could call it the feminine, the emotional. The way our whole culture treats emotion is medicate it, suppress it, don't trust it, it's gonna get you in trouble. Like the whole culture around it, as opposed to the opposite. What are your emotions there to do? And if you really ask that question, they're a gift for you every single day. They're your guidance system. It's not just don't go there because it feels bad and go there because it feels good. That's the most base level for survival. But a lot of us are trying to go beyond survival. So what are the gifts of every single emotion? I tell people it's like a box of all these crayon colors, right? Green does one thing, yellow does another. I couldn't draw the night sky without gray or black. I said, they all have something. What are they asking of you? What do you want from them? Can you get into a good and healthy and beautiful relationship with them? That's on a basic fundamental physical level. So we're kind of taking some of that power and control away from the commander, the mental commanding station. And I gotta say, I work with a lot of high performing people, and their mental, to-do lists, that has got them everywhere in life. They trust it. They know if they just slam themselves against a little bit more, they'll get a little bit more ahead. That's what they've done their whole lives to become successful. And then they reach a point where it no longer works, and they're really tired, and they're overweight because they haven't been paying attention to their body and feeling non-fit and happy with themselves. And then their family is breaking. And it's like, well, wait a second. Is this still working? Is it still working? And their only answer is, it's the only thing I know how to do is try and control it more, try and get more, work my way out of it mentally. And yet I say, you're grinding and you're burning out. And if you want to get to that next level of success, that next layer of success, you've got to learn something new. You've got to start putting down the old tools that used to work to get you to there, because there's new tools that will get you up to here. And it's hard because a lot of people are like, well, how do I start to trust these? How do I trust this? And I say, that is the $1 million question, right? That's the hard.
The unknown.
Trust is emotion.
Well, what is it? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting the different results,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's where that probably comes from.
But what you're saying is so important about, I feel like everyone really does not take into account the importance of teaching emotional intelligence to children and teaching them that emotions are okay as long as you work with them and work through them. And as a child, as an empath child, I feel like my absorption of people's dilemmas or whatever it would be, my refractory period, like I wasn't okay for a while. And if you're not feeling good, if you're in a mood for any length of time, it becomes a temperament. And if the temperament becomes a personality. So those are the things that I think are so important to teach children, that their emotions are okay, but how to manage your emotions. Like I was never taught that as a child.
Yeah. You were told, just be quiet, stop acting like that.
You're too sensitive. You're too sensitive was a big one for me.
I would get don't act out, stop acting out. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've lived in this kind of culture of suppression since we were young. And I understand it, because emotions can be volatile. They have to be controlled to some degree. But if they're healthy, they don't really need that control. So what we're saying is, we're not going to make them healthy. We're just going to make them controlled. So again, using flow and flow dreaming is it's got a real practical, almost psychological level to it, but then you can take it like you mentioned for the empaths. You know, for me, I look at it like I do physical, like I physically change myself, but then there's another part of me, my empathic self, my energetic self, that is just blooms and blossoms with this. Empaths, I mean, you're blessed with already this huge ability to sense and feel not just your own feelings, but other people's feelings. I mean, half of our training is always around distinguishing, am I feeling this or are you feeling this? You know, I've had to ask myself that so many times. And often it's like, oh, it's my daughter, she's feeling it. Now I'm feeling it and I thought it was me, but it's not, it's actually her, right? So you start to look at emotions as something that really transcend into, I hate to use the word psychic, but you know, the world of intuition, of knowing. And, you know, for me, that's where it kind of moves into a sixth sense. You know, that is your sixth sense. That is your other sense. And if you can go in, it's not just, I'm going to go in and hear things. Anybody who's ever tried that, I'm just going to go hear things. It's like, no, you're trying to use your mind. Your mind doesn't belong there. What belongs there is this open heart, is the emotional self, the receptive self. So there's a whole other area you can explore with this and strengthen and grow with it. Does that make sense?
I love that so much,
Makes
Summer.
sense.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, especially with when we're aware of that, like taking in other people's emotions and energy and recognizing that it's not this first of all, it's not about you. It's their thing that's going on. But also sometimes I wonder, like, you know, when I'm calm and then somebody will come in and it'll trigger something in me. And I'm starting to realize I'm being triggered because I'm picking up their energy. It's not me. This is their energy, and maybe it's not a good energy for me to be around. Yeah, it's really interesting. So is this like when are you talking about reactionary resistance? Like, or is that something completely different, like thing about what causes reactionary resistance? Because this is one of the topics that I thought would be interesting to discuss, because I'm not even sure what reactionary resistance is. So if you can describe that and how what causes that, because I think it's another piece of this, of the flow dreaming space.
Yeah. And you're probably seeing by now that flow dreaming it's at heart, there's a technique, but it's sort of like yoga, right? There are the postures, but then there's this whole expansive universe that support those postures, ways of thinking and living and dharma and all of that, right? So flow dreaming is sort of the same way. Once you start to do the technique, it kind of opens up all these other areas of exploration for you. So when we talk about things like alignment or resistance or ease or flow, these are sort of teachings within the flow dreaming universe. So when I go into flow, by the word flow, right? Flow, by the way, is an actual psychological state. It was identified by a Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he's known as the father of positive psychology. And he was applying it to all of these disciplines, like, you know, the golfer who's in flow, you know, the tennis pro, you know, getting into that state where you lose track of time, you are performing at an optimal level. So I said, great, that feels like a place with absolutely no resistance. Like if there was two polarities, flow is the one with zero resistance, and then you've got resistance. And so sometimes I call flow ease, right? I want to get back into a state of ease. Ease doesn't mean easy. You can be in a state of ease in a very difficult project. But what happens is all that you pour into it just blossoms, blooms, just floats out and develops. It becomes, there's no pushback in that. So when I say we're going into flow, I want you to feel that your entire life actually has that same polarity. There, you can find it, it is there. Where there is absolutely no resistance, where you can be in a state of abject and total ease. And people forget that. We always think we have to navigate between a bunch of, you know, crummy choices. You know, sometimes we get a few good things and then we get a lot of resistance and then some good things. Like, well, let's open this up. What if you had a choice? What if you could go into your flow and you could go into this space, you know, outside of time and space, essentially. I call it a quantum space. Go into this space, lift yourself in there using your daydreaming, which we haven't even talked about, but you get into this, the imagination is there, your feelings are there. And what you're saying is, I want to first experience a sense of being magnificently in alignment, in a beautiful state of non-resistance, an utter and absolute flow, a state of ease in my life, where all good things come to me, where I am perfectly divinely on track, where everything that's in front of me that needs to get untangled is untangling. And I show up for that untangling, right? So, sorry, I close my eyes often when I go into this.
No, I'm fine. I'm just
love that.
listening. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah. You're in the flow, by the way.
So you said just dropping in like that. So I often start my flow dreaming with that one piece of awareness. Like, this is where I truly exist. This is where I want to feel the most. Because, in my experience, we do enough in our lives to cause resistance for ourselves. We don't need to try to make resistance, and we don't need to try to unmake resistance. What we need to actually be doing is moving into ease, reminding ourselves it's there. I always say we're our own worst enemies, in that we bring all of our own resistance in, either because of things we do or think, or because we love people so much that we're going to take some of their resistance and troubles in. So getting into the state of flow for me it's like a counterweight. Remember how I said earlier, when you are trying to tell yourself to stay in a mindset and you can't, you're like, well, how do I actually get there? I say, well, if you go into the super potent state of being, think of it like a big mega vitamin pill of energy. But you're constantly bringing your entire being back into this place of, but this is who we really are, and this is what we really are. I don't care what you experienced during the day. Yeah, you had some, ups and downs and resistance and stuff, but when you go and when we open into, I call it, opening into all of us, our all layers of ourself, physical through non-physical, and we are very clear in who and what we are in that space. And we're making it happen in real time, like through this. That's what changes. That's where your life suddenly says, do you know how long we've been waiting to hear this from you? You keep giving out these little, I call them squirts of ideas, like, oh, I kind of want this and I kind of want that. And I hate this and I don't want that. And your life is trying to navigate that, like, well, she said this and then she said that, but then she acted like this and then she forgot about that. So for me, this is the to-do list that isn't on paper. It's the one in my life where I say, I'm always in ease and flow. And if I'm not, hey, there's this thing, I'd like it to be unraveled. I'm here for it. Let's go. Let's do it. Boom.
Boom, and you're off. So listen, before we get into the end of this, give us a little bit about daydreaming, because you said we haven't touched on daydreaming, and I know that's part of this. So give us a little bit about daydreaming.
Okay. It's so funny because you started by saying how there's a certain quality to the flow dreams that I've recorded. What I was trying to do when I captured those recordings was share my feelings with you. It's like Spock, my mind to your mind, my emotion to your emotion, come into this space. And once you create something, it's not just a physical thing you create, it also has a non-physical component. So the non-physical component of these is that feeling, that place, that lushness that I'm trying to get you to. And one of the biggest complaints people used to have about my work, that they would say, she talks so fast. She's not soothing at all. She's so hyped up and the music isn't soothing. And I'd say, because you're not supposed to fall asleep to it. It's not straight up meditation.
Yeah, right.
I would have explained.
You're pretty clear about that, because I read that too on your website, and yes, and in the preparation for flow dreaming, it said this is not a meditation. This is not to be done when you're sleeping. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So and that's one of the biggest things that people have to understand. So yeah, I want you to go on a rolling, rippling, beautiful river of light. Or so the daydreaming part is, I say, look, it's your imagination that's going to be unlocking the door. And again, they say, well, isn't that self-hypnosis? And I'm like, not really. I don't want it just to stay in your subconscious. This is not a mental thing. This is an expansive thing. This is an all thing. This is your energy being thing. So what I want you to do is daydream, release and let go. Because if you noticed, whenever you daydream, the classic, you're driving home and you're like, oh, you guys live in New York. Do you drive? I don't know.
Caryn drives. She lives in Long Island.
Okay. So you're driving and you're like, oh my God, I got home and I don't even remember stopping at the last 3 stoplights. Oh God, I must have. Where was I? And you realize there's a part of you that was very much someplace else. A part of you is still physically managing things. Some of you was way far away. When we daydream, it's like we are checking in. I always call it, it's the computer that's checking in the background for your email, right? Your phone is always checking. You don't notice it's doing it, but it's built in. It's always checking. Daydreaming, for me, is a way that our beings sort of check into something else behind the scenes. And sometimes, they don't actually know why we daydream. It's one of the most puzzling things. I think it's because it does have this other component that science just won't ask questions about yet, although it's starting to change. So yeah, maybe it's helping you with memory processing and storing stuff, but maybe it's also sort of checking into some other part of you. And because when you use your imagination and say, okay, I'm going to daydream, I'm going to purposely start making up these images because the river feels beautiful to me. I want to float in a river of light and just be in this steady state of ease. I want to feel lifted, carried, nurtured, looked after, cared for. I want to feel okay, content, and ready. So for instance, those are the feelings that I'd say, well, this river, this energy, just, I'm going to imagine my way into it. Pretty soon there's that moment, just like in a regular daydream, where you're somewhere else and time is stopping and your physical surroundings are kind of not there. That for me is when we enter flow state. The biggest difference is it's sort of like conscious dreaming, lucid dreaming, right? We don't forget we're in this daydream like we usually do when we drive home and we're like, oh my God, where was I? In this case, we are following the daydream. We're staying with it. We are directors of it. And I think that's why people like the recorded ones I've done, because it takes one little more layer of navigation off, because you can just listen to me tell you, show you things. And that's why they're all so wildly different, because honestly, they're all based on me. If I'm creating a flow dream because I feel like I want to strengthen my ability to feel love in my relationship. I feel like it's just been coasting and I want to feel the beauty and magnitude of it. I want to have some emphasis put on it again. My flow will show me whatever is the most revealing and perfect, what do you call it? A container for that energy and emotion. But it's just mine. And it turns out other people like them too. So there.
Well, that works. I think it works beautifully because I'm a fan. So Summer,
awesome.
How can our audience reach you? What's the best way to reach you?
I am very reachable. They can email me if they want to. Honest to God, it's right there on the website. I think the best way is to go to the website, actually, flowdreaming.com. And I was going to mention this, but I do have a kit. I teach people how to flow dream for free. Like, I have never charged people to learn how to flow dream. For me, it's like a God-given right. We should all know how to do it.
That's beautiful.
So I made a kit. I recorded it. I said, I'm going to bring you into flow state. I'm going to give you some audios. Go. If it works for you, come back for more. We can get more detailed. We can start working on different areas of your life. So if they get that kit, that's the best way. And it says on the website, like, get the free kit or get my free goodies. Or you can also get an app on your phone and it will have that kit already there for you.
Right. I did the kit. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you should do the kit before you start flow dreaming. It's very important.
Yeah, exactly. It gives much more detail than I've been able to talk to you guys about, but that's for me always the starting point. And if you discover that, oh my gosh, I've been looking for this kind of practice my whole life, one that's, it's for creative people, it's for highly productive people, it is for people who want to be highly productive. It's for people who maybe didn't feel great about themselves, about meditation. Yeah.
Summer, I love this for people who've never, this is the first modality that I've heard of that really deals with the emotional system in a way that is so unique.
Yeah.
I'm as somebody who can really benefit from this, I will be downloading the app and getting the kit.
You'll be hooked.
I should say,
Caryn, you'll be hooked.
I mean, that's part of it. It's good for people who have no woo in them at all, right? I have psychiatrists who are using it with their clients, psychologists, grief counselors, substance abuse facilities, all using it with their patients. No woo parts involved, just the emotional part. And then I have intuitives and coaches and everybody in that realm using it to kind of lift and guide and direct their lives, using that component of it too. So it really crosses the spectrum of people, which I personally love.
Can we find you on Hay House too?
You know what? It's been a long time. They still carry, I think, one of my programs, but I left Hay House in 2009, and Flowdreaming has been the company that I've built since then. So now I put a smattering of my stuff, I sprinkle it in as many places as will take me, like you said.
I found you, where I find you, Mind Valley.
Mind Valley has some of my works. Hay House has some of my works. I have a new book coming out with a new publisher, HCI, in April of next year, called Stuff Nobody Taught You, which is
we're gonna read that.
Yeah, it's a little bit about flow dreaming, but I also have a book behind me about that. So you can find my books on Amazon, and I do teach different programs throughout the year. So I work with people privately one-on-one in one kind of program. I have another program called Flow On, where every month we open up a topic and in our lives. And I say, this is the one we're going to explore in detail. Let's see how we can impact this using flow dreaming and using all kinds of other practical stuff too. And then finally, I have Me School, which, as I mentioned, is only enrolls at this point once a year. It's a 3-month program. And I call it the whole enchilada, It's not just here's how to flow dream, which I am hoping most people already have kind of picked up. I've already given that. But now how do we use that in your life in such a way that whatever you have been stalled out on gets freed up? Whatever you've been afraid of, now you willfully, lovingly embrace without any kind of fear. Whatever transition you're ready to embark on, you have ease and flow and that highest energy around you and beside you. I say, I want to teach you the high level stuff that we use flow dreaming for at this point. And we do a lot of things from just, what's your goal? And then, okay, that's a nice goal, but that's not high enough, right? People go,
yeah,
no, I can't even get
expansive
that.
vertical highness is where you want to go, not limit yourself. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, Summer, it's been beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna go. After this is Caryn and I have done a couple of recordings already today. I know I'm gonna go out there and do some daydreaming and flow dreaming.
Awesome.
And this afternoon for sure.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here, really. And I know you're super busy, so we really appreciate your time. You're a major expert, and we're really blessed that you came on board with today.
Summer, thank you so
great
much.
Questions.
I'm going to be downloading the app, and then I'm going to go take a walk.
Awesome. Well, I hope you and everybody uses it in whatever area of your life you want to use it for. It's free. It's out there. It's just go for it.
You are a gift. Thank you so much.
You are a gift.
All right. You guys are wonderful. Thank you.
Mwah.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. We would love your support, so please leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you are interested in hearing more of the Beyond the Table podcast, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Check out the show notes to find out how to reach us, and remember, you are strong, intelligent, and sensational. You are beyond the table.